Hey everyone, and welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into a topic that's super relevant for all of you university students out there, sexual health.
Yeah, a topic that's definitely top of mind for a lot of people,
Right.
but not always easy to talk about.
For sure. And we've got a really interesting mix of sources for this deep dive. A study guide, some pretty candid conversations, and even a helpful FAQ.
That's right. A real multifaceted perspective.
Exactly. So our mission today is to help you navigate this complex world and feel confident making informed decisions about your well-being.
Exactly. Equipping you with the knowledge and tools to take charge of your sexual health.
One of the things that really jumped out at me from these sources is all the amazing benefits that come with sexual intimacy.
Right.
And we're not just talking about the obvious, like the emotional and psychological perks, but there are some surprising physical benefits too.
Absolutely. It's true. The connection between sexual activity and overall health is often overlooked.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that it's not just about pleasure.
Right. It's about well-being, too. For instance, did you know that regular intimacy can actually strengthen your immune system?
Really?
Yeah, studies have shown that people who engage in sexual activity more frequently tend to have higher levels of certain antibodies,
Hmm.
which can help fight off infections.
So more intimacy equals a stronger defense system. That's pretty cool. What else did these sources say?
Well, they also highlighted the positive impact on cardiovascular health.
Oh, interesting.
It's like a workout for your heart. Sexual activity increases your heart rate and circulation, which can improve blood flow and potentially reduce the risk of heart disease down the line.
So it's good for the heart in more ways than one.
I love him.
Any other surprising benefits?
Well, there's even evidence that sexual activity can act as a natural pain reliever.
Really?
Yeah, when you're intimate, your body releases endorphins.
Oh, right. Endorphins. Those feel-good hormones.
Exactly, and they have pain-blocking properties.
Yeah.
It's like your body's own built-in pharmacy.
That makes total sense. I've definitely heard about endorphins being released during exercise.
Mm,
So I guess it makes sense that intimacy would have a similar effect.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And of course, we can't forget about oxytocin.
The love hormone.
Exactly. It's released during intimacy and promotes feelings of bonding, connection, and relaxation.
Ah, so it can do wonders for your mood and stress levels.
Precisely. It's like a natural mood booster and stress reliever all rolled into one.
Amazing. Okay. But let's be real. While intimacy has all these amazing benefits, there are also risks involved,
Of course.
especially when it comes to STIs.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to be informed and proactive about protecting your health.
Right.
Thankfully, we have more tools than ever before to prevent STIs.
Like what? I remember the sources mentioning some pretty interesting options.
Well, let's start with the basics barrier methods,
Yeah.
like condoms and dental dams.
Good old condoms.
Yep. They're still the most effective way to prevent the spread of STIs like syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia.
Right. Those are the big ones.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about any condoms here.
Yeah.
Using high-quality condoms consistently and correctly is key.
Yeah, because let's be real, not all condoms are created equal.
That's right. It's essential to choose condoms that are made from reliable material stored properly and used within their expiration date.
Okay, good to know. And what about dental dams? Are those still a thing?
They are, and they're important. They provide a barrier during oral sex, which can help prevent the transmission of STIs like herpes and HPV.
Good point. It's easy to forget about protection during oral sex, but it's just as important.
For sure. Now, beyond barrier methods, there's also PIP, which has been a game changer for HIV prevention.
Carry P, yeah, I've heard a lot about it, but I'm still not entirely sure how it works.
It's essentially a daily pill or a bi-monthly injection.
Oh, I didn't know it came as an injection.
It does. The injection uses a medication called cabotegravir, also known as Apretude. But whether you take the pill or the injection, it can significantly reduce your risk of contracting HIV.
So how does it actually work?
It essentially blocks HIV from replicating in your body.
Oh, wow.
So even if you're exposed to the virus, PrEP can prevent it from taking hold and developing into an infection.
That's amazing. So it's like an extra layer of protection specifically for HIV.
Exactly. It's a powerful tool, but it's important to remember that it doesn't protect against other STIs.
Right, so using condoms is still crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, another important tool in our arsenal is vaccinations.
Vaccines.
Yes, the Gardasil vaccine, for instance, is highly effective in preventing HPV.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that one.
And this is particularly important, as a recent study found that HPV is responsible for almost all cervical cancer cases.
Wow, almost all. That's a pretty compelling reason to get vaccinated. What other vaccines are relevant here?
Well, for those at higher risk, especially in the LGBTQ plus community, there's also the Mpox vaccine.
Mpox, that's the one that used to be called monkeypox, right?
That's right. And let's not forget about the hepatitis A and B vaccines and the meningococcal vaccine.
Right.
These are all important safeguards against other infections that can be spread through sexual contact.
It's incredible how much vaccines can protect us from. It's like having a shield against potential threats. Are there any other new tools on the horizon?
There's something called doxycycline PEP, a relatively new post-exposure prophylaxis for bacterial STIs.
Doxycycline PEP. Okay, I haven't heard that one.
It's an antibiotic you can take within 72 hours of potential exposure to reduce your risk of contracting infections like syphilis and chlamydia.
Wow, so even if you think you might have been exposed, there's still a chance to prevent infection. That's incredible.
It is. It's important to note, though, that doxycycline PP is only effective against certain bacterial STIs, not viral ones like HIV or herpes.
Okay, so it's not a magic bullet, but it's definitely a promising option for those bacterial infections.
Exactly. Now, let's not forget about another simple but crucial step, using lubricants during intimacy.
Oh, right, lubricants.
Yeah, good lubrication can prevent tiny tears or micro tears in the delicate mucosal tissues,
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
which can make you more susceptible to infections.
So it's like creating a protective barrier against those little tears that could let in bacteria or viruses. Are there any specific types of lubricants that are better than others?
While any lubricant is better than none, some lubricants are specifically designed for STI prevention
Oh, wow.
and contain antimicrobial agents, which can provide an extra layer of protection.
So it's like double protection.
Exactly. It sounds like there are a lot of things you can do to stay safe and healthy.
Absolutely. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about the positive aspects of intimacy, but what about those times when you might not be sexually active?
You mean like periods of involuntary celibacy?
Exactly. It might not be something everyone experiences, but it can definitely be a challenging time, both emotionally and mentally.
The sources we looked at highlighted some of the potential struggles, like feeling isolated, frustrated, or even experiencing a dip in self-esteem.
Right. It's easy to feel like you're the only one going through it.
And that can be really tough. It's important to remember that these feelings are completely valid,
For sure.
and there are ways to navigate this period in a healthy way.
So what can someone do if they're going through a period of involuntary celibacy and want to make sure they're taking care of their mental and emotional well-being?
One of the first things is to try to reframe celibacy as a form of self-care.
Oh, that's interesting.
Instead of viewing it as a restriction, think of it as an opportunity to focus on personal growth, explore new hobbies, or strengthen friendships.
I like that perspective. It's about finding fulfillment and connection in other areas of your life.
Exactly. And remember, physical touch isn't limited to sexual intimacy.
True.
Hugs, handshakes, even just casual, non-sexual touch can release oxytocin and help combat feelings of loneliness.
Those little gestures of affection can go a long way. Yeah, I think sometimes we underestimate the power of those small things.
For sure. And if you're really struggling, don't hesitate to reach out for professional help.
That's good advice. It's okay to ask for support.
Absolutely. Therapy or support groups can provide a safe and supportive space to process your emotions and explore paths to healthier relationships.
You know, one thing that keeps coming up in all of this is how crucial communication is, especially when it comes to sexual health.
Communication is the cornerstone of any healthy relationship, especially when it comes to intimacy.
Right.
It's about being open and honest with your partner, about everything from your STI status and testing history to your comfort levels, boundaries, and even your desires and expectations.
But sometimes, even with the best intentions, those conversations can be difficult to start.
Absolutely. It can feel awkward or even scary to bring up these topics.
So how do you navigate those potentially tricky conversations?
Well, it starts with creating a safe and non-judgmental space for open dialogue.
So pick the right time and place.
Exactly. Maybe choose a time when you're both relaxed and can talk without distractions. Start by sharing your own thoughts and feelings, and then invite your partner to do the same.
It's about making it a two-way street.
Yes, where both partners feel heard and respected. And remember, it's not a one-time conversation. Communication needs to be an ongoing process throughout the relationship.
So it's about checking in with each other regularly.
Right. Making sure you're both on the same page and addressing any concerns or questions that might come up.
And of course, consent is a huge part of this conversation.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
not a one-and-done situation.
It's about ensuring that both partners are enthusiastically and freely consenting to every step of the way.
Exactly. And it's not just about saying yes or no. It's about making sure both partners feel comfortable and empowered to express their desires and boundaries.
It's about respecting each other's autonomy and making sure everyone feels safe and respected. So we've talked a lot about individual responsibility, but what about the role of universities in all of this?
Universities have a huge responsibility to create a sex-positive and inclusive environment for their students,
I mean, college is a time of immense growth and discovery.
right?
And for many students, it's the first time they're navigating these issues on their own.
Exactly. Universities need to step up and provide the resources and support to help students make informed decisions about their sexual health.
So what are some concrete things universities can do to make a difference?
Well, for starters, they can implement comprehensive sexual health education programs,
What kind of programs?
programs that cater to all orientations and gender identities.
So not just the basic biology stuff.
Right? This means going beyond the basics and covering topics like consent, healthy relationships, STI prevention, and even the emotional and mental aspects of intimacy.
Okay, so making sure the information is relevant and engaging.
Exactly. Think workshops, peer-led discussions, social media campaigns, anything that will resonate with students and make them feel comfortable talking about these topics.
I like it. Another crucial step is providing access to free or low-cost STI testing events.
Absolutely. Removing financial barriers and creating a judgment-free environment for testing is essential.
And what about those safe sex kits? Are those still a thing?
They are, and they're a great idea. Making condoms, dental dams, and lubricants readily available in residence halls and student centers can go a long way in promoting safer practices.
It's about normalizing these conversations and making it clear that sexual health is a priority for the university.
Exactly. And it's not just about providing information and resources, it's also about creating a culture of support.
Right. It's about making sure students feel comfortable seeking help and advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That means training resident assistants and other student leaders to be resources for their peers, fostering open dialogue, and addressing any instances of harassment or discrimination swiftly and seriously.
It's about creating a campus where everyone feels safe, respected, and empowered to make informed choices about their sexual health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's touch on a topic that often comes up when we talk about sexual health: natural remedies and supplements.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot of people are curious about those things.
Like whether things like zinc elderberry or echinacea can really help boost their immune system or even protect against STIs.
Right? Can those really make a difference?
Well, it's understandable that people are looking for natural ways to support their health,
Sure.
and some of these supplements do show promise in terms of overall immune function.
Like zinc is a classic immune booster, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And elderberry is supposed to be great for fighting off colds and flus.
Right. But can they really protect against STIs?
It's crucial to remember that these supplements are not a replacement for proven medical treatments, like PARP-EP vaccines and antibiotics.
So they're more like complementary tools.
Exactly. They can potentially enhance your overall well-being, but shouldn't be relied upon as your primary line of defense.
Okay, so it's important to have realistic expectations.
Absolutely. It's always best to consult with a healthcare professional to get personalized advice and make sure you're taking the right steps to protect your health.
It's like a holistic approach where you're combining the best of both worlds, modern medicine and natural remedies, all under the guidance of a healthcare provider.
Precisely. Speaking of interesting approaches, one of the sources mentioned something that caught my eye: the potential use of sterile catheter lubricant.
Sterile catheter lubricant, what's that about?
It was presented as a potential antimicrobial agent during sexual activity.
Oh, that's intriguing. So the idea is that because it's sterile, it could help reduce the introduction of bacteria.
Precisely. However, it's essential to point out that while sterile lubricant can reduce friction and irritation, which can lower the risk of microtears and make you less susceptible to infection, it's not specifically formulated to prevent STIs like syphilis and gonorrhea.
So while it might offer some level of protection, it's important not to overestimate its effectiveness and to still prioritize other proven prevention methods.
Exactly. And if you're considering this option, make sure the lubricant is water-based and safe for use on sensitive mucosal tissues. You don't want to introduce any additional irritants or disrupt the natural microbiome, which could actually increase your susceptibility to infections.
Always good to be cautious and informed. And remember, if you have any questions or concerns, your healthcare provider is always the best source of information.
Couldn't agree more.
Hmm.
Now, I know you're eager to talk about those new STI vaccines, especially for HIV and herpes.
Oh, yeah, I am.
But we're running a little short on time for this segment.
Already. Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
It does. Should we pick this up in part two?
You bet. We've covered a lot of ground already, and there's still so much more to explore. We'll be back with part 2 after a short break.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were just about to get into some pretty exciting stuff. The latest research on STI vaccines, especially for HIV and herpes.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets really interesting. I think everyone knows how effective vaccines have been for preventing so many diseases.
Right.
So the idea of having vaccines for STIs like HIV and herpes is super promising.
Absolutely. A vaccine for HIV in particular has been a long-sought goal for researchers.
I can imagine.
And while there's still work to be done, the progress has been remarkable.
So fill us in. What's the latest on these vaccines?
Well, for HIV, there are actually several different approaches being explored.
Hmm.
One of the most exciting areas is mRNA vaccines.
Oh, like the technology used for the COVID-19 vaccines.
Exactly. The goal with these vaccines is to train the immune system to recognize and target HIV before it can establish an infection.
So it's like giving your body a sneak peek of the virus so it can be ready to fight back.
That's a great way to put it. And there have already been some encouraging results from early-stage clinical trials.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Moderna, the company behind one of the leading COVID-19 vaccines, is actually testing an mRNA HIV vaccine candidate. It's still early days, but initial results show promise in terms of safety and the ability to trigger an immune response.
That's fantastic news, but I seem to remember reading something about some setbacks in HIV vaccine research. Something about unexpected side effects.
Unfortunately, you're right. Some trials did encounter unexpected skin reactions in some participants.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this led to a pause in testing while researchers investigate the cause and look for ways to mitigate those reactions.
So it's a bit of a setback.
It is, but hopefully it's just a temporary hurdle.
Fingers crossed. So what about herpes? Any progress on that front?
Yes, actually, there's a lot of research happening for herpes vaccines as well.
Well, that's good to hear.
While herpes isn't life-threatening like HIV, it's incredibly common and can be a recurring issue.
Right. It can cause a lot of discomfort and distress.
And the emotional and psychological burden of herpes shouldn't be underestimated.
For sure.
Right now, research is mainly focused on two types of the virus, HSV-1 and HSV-2.
Okay, remind me again, what's the difference between those two?
Well, HSV-1 usually causes oral herpes and a cold sores.
Right.
And HSV-2 is typically associated with genital herpes.
Got it. So the goal is to develop vaccines that could protect against both types of herpes.
Exactly. And there are a couple of really promising strategies being investigated.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Well, one involves using genetically modified versions of the virus to stimulate an immune response without actually causing infection.
Oh, wow. So it's like training the immune system with a safe version of the virus.
Exactly. It's like a dress rehearsal for your body's defenses.
I love that analogy. And what's the other approach?
The other strategy uses specific proteins from the herpes virus to target the immune response.
Okay.
So by focusing on these key proteins, researchers hope to trigger a more precise and effective immune reaction.
It sounds like they're really covering all the bases in the fight against herpes.
They are. And that's what makes this research so exciting. The field of STI vaccine development is advancing so rapidly, it really offers a lot of hope for a future where these infections are less prevalent and have less of an impact on people's lives.
That's incredible. It's amazing to think that one day we might have vaccines that could significantly reduce the spread of these infections and
Yeah.
help so many people live healthier and happier lives.
Absolutely. Speaking of a healthier and happier future, one of the things that really struck me in the sources was this call for a shift in how we approach sexual health education, especially in university settings.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's not just about handing out pamphlets and hoping for the best,
No, it's about creating a much more supportive and inclusive environment.
where students actually feel empowered to make informed choices.
Exactly. One of the sources used this great phrase. They talked about moving away from fear-based messaging and embracing a more sex-positive approach.
I like that. What would that actually look like in a university setting, though?
Well, it's about framing sexual health as part of overall well-being and personal empowerment.
Yeah.
Not something to be ashamed of or afraid of. It's about celebrating diversity, respecting different choices, and fostering open dialogue.
So taking the stigma out of the conversation and making it okay to talk about these things without judgment.
Exactly. I remember when I was in my first year of uni, I felt so uncomfortable even asking basic questions about sexual health.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It would have been so helpful to have a more open and supportive environment back then.
Absolutely. And a more inclusive approach is also crucial. recognizing that students come from diverse backgrounds. They
Right.
have different beliefs, and they might face unique challenges when it comes to accessing care or even feeling comfortable talking about these topics.
That makes sense. A one-size-fits-all approach to sexual health education just wouldn't be effective.
Right. We need to be much more mindful of cultural sensitivities, religious beliefs.
And the specific needs of different student groups, including LGBTQ plus students?
Exactly. And this inclusivity needs to be reflected in every aspect of sexual health education.
From the language used to the types of resources that are available?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another important aspect that came up in the sources is the role of peer-led discussions.
I love that idea. I think it's so much easier to relate to someone who's going through the same things as you are.
Right.
I remember when I was in university, I learned so much from my peers in casual conversations about relationships and sexual health.
Me too. It just feels more relatable and less intimidating than getting information from authority figures.
Exactly. Peer educators can play such a powerful role in normalizing conversations about sexual health,
Yeah,
breaking down stigmas and creating a sense of community.
for sure.
They can share their own experiences, answer questions in a way that feels authentic and relatable, and encourage their peers to make healthy choices.
It's like building a network of support and information sharing among students.
Right.
Right.
Which can be so much more effective than just top-down approaches.
Totally. And it's not just about one-on-one conversations either, right? Peer educators can also lead workshops, organize events, and even create social media campaigns to spread awareness and get people talking.
Yeah. They can be real agents of change within the university community.
Absolutely. Now, in addition to peer education, let's not forget about the importance of making sexual health services easily accessible and confidential.
Yes, that's so important.
Universities can play a crucial role in ensuring that students have access to free or low-cost STI testing, confidential counseling services, and even telehealth options.
Right, for those who might feel more comfortable seeking help remotely.
Exactly. It's about removing those barriers and making it as easy as possible for students to prioritize their well-being.
When I was in university, I remember feeling really intimidated by the idea of going to the student health center for sexual health services.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way.
I wish it had been more normalized and accessible back then.
You raise a valid point. The perception of these services can definitely be a barrier for a lot of students. It's so important for universities to create a culture where seeking help for sexual health is seen as a responsible and positive step.
Not something to be ashamed of or afraid of.
Exactly. It's about creating a campus culture where students feel comfortable talking about these things, asking questions, and seeking support without fear of judgment or discrimination.
That feeling of safety and support is so important, especially when dealing with sensitive issues like sexual health.
Couldn't agree more. Now, in addition to all of these important steps, I think one of the most powerful things universities can do is embrace the latest advancements in sexual health,
Like what?
like the emerging research on STI vaccines, for example.
Right, staying up to date on the latest research and innovations is essential.
Absolutely. It's about equipping students with the knowledge and tools they need to make informed decisions about their sexual health now and in the future.
It's amazing to think that one day getting vaccinated against STIs could be just as routine as getting vaccinated against measles or mumps.
Wouldn't that be great? And universities can really be leaders in promoting awareness of these advancements and advocating for their widespread adoption.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like we've covered so much ground.
We have, from the surprising benefits of intimacy to the latest advancements in STI prevention and the crucial role universities play in creating a more supportive and inclusive environment.
It's clear that the landscape of sexual health is constantly evolving,
It is.
and that's why it's so important to stay informed and engaged.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on to part 3, I want to remind our listeners that this is a complex topic with lots of nuances,
It is.
and everyone's journey with sexual health is unique.
Right. What works for one person might not work for another, and that's okay.
Exactly. The key is to be informed, make choices that align with your own values and comfort levels, and seek support when you need it.
Well said. We'll be right back with part 3, where we'll delve into the importance of personal responsibility and agency when it comes to sexual health. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into sexual health. So far, we've talked about the benefits, the risks, and the resources available. But in this last part, we really want to focus on the idea of personal responsibility.
Yeah, taking ownership of your own sexual well-being.
Exactly. It's not just about relying on doctors or universities to tell you what to do. It's about being proactive and making informed choices that are right for you.
Absolutely. One of the sources actually used a really interesting term for this. They called it Sexual self-governance.
Sexual self-governance. I like
Yeah.
that. It really emphasizes that sense of agency and empowerment.
Right. It's about being informed, knowing the facts, understanding the risks and benefits, and then making conscious choices that align with your own values and goals.
So where does the sense of personal responsibility actually begin?
Well, it starts with being proactive. And that means seeking out reliable sources of information, like your university health center, trusted websites, healthcare professionals.
Not just relying on what you hear from friends or see on social media.
Exactly. You really need to be critical of the information you come across. Make sure it's coming from a credible source.
So do your own research. Don't just take someone's word for it.
Right. And it also means being proactive about your own health. Getting tested regularly for STIs, even if you don't have any symptoms.
That's a good point because I know a lot of STIs can be asymptomatic.
Exactly. You could have an infection and not even know it. So regular testing is one of the most responsible things you can do for yourself and your partners.
And speaking of partners, open and honest communication is key.
Absolutely. Personal responsibility extends to how we communicate within our relationships. It means having those sometimes difficult conversations with your partner about your sexual history, your STI status, your comfort levels, and boundaries.
I know those conversations can be tough to initiate, but they're so essential for building trust and making sure everyone feels safe and respected.
Absolutely. It's about creating a space where both partners feel comfortable being open and honest about their needs and concerns.
And it's not a one-time conversation either, right?
Definitely. As relationships evolve, so do our needs and boundaries. Open communication needs to be a continuous thread.
So it's about regularly checking in with each other, making sure you're both on the same page, and addressing any questions or concerns that come up.
Right. And of course, consent plays a huge role in all of this.
It's non-negotiable. Consent has to be freely and enthusiastically given every single time.
Exactly. And it's not just about saying yes or no. It's about making sure both partners feel comfortable expressing their desires and boundaries and feeling empowered to say no if something doesn't feel right.
So this whole idea of sexual self-governance is about being informed, proactive, and communicative.
It is. It's about taking charge of your own sexual health journey.
And remembering that it's a journey, not a destination.
That's a great point. What might feel right for you at one stage in your life might not feel right at another.
Exactly. So it's about staying curious, staying informed, and being open to adjusting your approach as you grow and evolve.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, this has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the unexpected benefits of intimacy to the latest advancements in STI prevention to the crucial role universities play in fostering a supportive and inclusive environment for their students.
And of course, we wrapped it all up by emphasizing the importance of personal responsibility.
Because at the end of the day, it's up to each of us to make choices that support our well-being.
Absolutely.
So as we conclude this episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Sexual health is a lifelong journey of self-discovery and empowerment.
It's about making choices that honor your well-being, respecting yourself and your partners, and advocating for your needs.
And remember, you are not alone on this journey. There are so many resources available, people who care, and a wealth of knowledge to guide you.
So trust yourself, listen to your body, and make choices that empower you to live a happy, healthy, and fulfilling life.
That's a great message to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into sexual health. We'll see you next time for another exploration of fascinating topics. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay well.